Anybody? Yes.
You pass out for weeks.
Well, that's, you pass out first. I guess that's one answer. Smoking enough, that might happen. But actually, the brain stem area that in your brain that runs your cardiorespiratory system, operates your cardiorespiratory system, there are receptors near that brain stem that for opioids, for alcohol, for heroin, for street drugs, all those things can be sucked into those receptors, if you will, using lay language here, and can halt your cardiorespiratory system. There are no cannabis receptors near the parts of your brain that operate your cardiorespiratory system. So you can smoke pounds and pounds of weed, you are not going to overdose. When you hear about all these stars, these movie stars, everybody overdosing, and they're smoking pot, they're also doing cocaine and alcohol and everything else, on top of it. So there's no surprises there. But you can't physiologically overdose on cannabis. And in fact, even the DEA, the U.S. federal government has said, no one, not one person has ever died from an overdose of cannabis. So that's all the good news. So those are the big rules. Choosing your raw materials, you look at labels. Delivery system, you just know now. You walk out of this room knowing what the best delivery system is. But number 3 and 4 of those rules, finding your ratio and finding your dose, is going to be very much on you to do the research, to talk to people, to get a consultation with a medical cannabis expert, to do the reading, to figure it out. You're not going to go bad. I mean, the dose is too light, you're not going to get the good effects you need. They're not the pain killing or the sleep that you need or whatever. You increase your dose. Okay, those are the big rules on how to choose and use your cannabis medicine. So now, cannabinoids in cancer. So what we do is we use THC to heal but not get high. So our favorite thing to do with THC is microdosing. This comes from the work that you saw of Dr. Raphael Mechoulam at Hebrew University and his discovery in 1963 that THC actually kills cancer cells. In 1975, the US NIH, National Institutes of Health, recognized his work and said, yeah, it's true. THC kills cancer cells. In January of 2012, the National Cancer Institute, again a US government agency, had a website called Alternative Oncology, and they had a 2-column article about Dr. Mechoulam's work and how THC kills cancer cells without harming the healthy cells around it. Unfortunately, that article was only there for 3 weeks, and then it mysteriously disappeared because the federal government's caught in this conundrum right now of, on the one hand, they claim that it has no medical value, cannabis has no medical value. On the other hand, they've been saying for years that it actually does. So it's kind of, they're caught in a bind. This is all going to change. It's changing. It's changing every day. We use THC oil to kill cancer cells. The dose is literally the size of the head of a straight pin. That's what you start with. You put it on your finger, put it on your tongue so it goes through the membrane of your mouth, and you slowly increase the number of doses per day until you're matching what we know has worked with the kind of cancer you've got, the stage it's at, etc. And then you don't increase the size of the dose. If you ever take it to where you start to get dizzy or feel high, the dose is too big, and what I recommend to people is have yourself a little box of everyday detox tea next to you, which you get at any health food store. Drink some of that, drink a lot of water, flush out your liver, and put on a funny video. You'll get through it. I promise. I promise. It won't be good. But really, we work very hard with patients to make sure that we are microdosing. The whole mantra is go low, go slow with THC. Go low, go slow. You increase the number of doses, but not the size of the dose. For cancer, we have a protocol for, say, 4th stage cancer, where you would start before bedtime, because the only side effect you'll get from these microdoses of THC is a little bit of sleepiness, a little analgesic. So do it before bedtime. Sleep like a baby all night. If you slept like a baby all night, you didn't feel high, and you wake up and your head is clear, not foggy, you probably got that's the right size dose. And then slowly you add the number of doses throughout the day, spreading them out as your body gets used to it as your body starts to tolerate the THC. This is what we do for extreme fourth stage cancer. And it's been very effective in a number of patients. I always like to put this up because so many of our folks up here, retirees, have had health care at California Pacific Medical Center. That's what this says. This was an early study, privately funded, in which they used CBD in breast cancer. And this is CBD, not even THC. This is how we got to the 1-2 punch of THC and CBD. We used to just use THC because we knew about Dr. Mashulam's work. Well, okay, we'll kill the cancer with THC. Then we realized that they work so much better with CBD. And CBD, there was a Nobel Prize in medicine given out to a doctor who discovered that inflammation feeds the growth of new cancer cells and causes the proliferation of cancer cells. So if you can reduce inflammation, you're going to reduce the growth of cancer cells. So, what's the best anti-inflammatory in the world? CBD. So if you do THC punch 1 to kill the existing cancer cells, CBD punch 2 to change the chemistry around those cancer cells so that you reduce the inflammation, you got a 1-2 punch against cancer. It's really very exciting. Anyway, on the left side, the invasion of metastatic cells is halted by CBD on the right compared to breast cancer cells on the left. So that's where that X-ray comes from, CPMC's experiment with using CBD to treat cancer. This is just one of my favorite stories. Roger and his friend Candy in a parking lot Dragonfly. He came to us in August of 2015. He had pancreatic cancer that had spread to his lungs. They gave him a few months to live. He asked if he could be on our compassion program. He's a veteran, low income, and we started giving him THC oil and CBD. And in last spring, he was supposed to be dead like fall of 2015. And last spring he comes and taps me on the shoulder at the line in Safeway, and he says, "I just went to the vet, and the doctor couldn't find. They did a CAT scan. They couldn't find any cancer cells, or any tumor activity in my lungs. He just couldn't figure it out." He's like scratching his head, going, "Don't know what happened there. It's probably still in your pancreas, but we're just not sure." And he says, "That's fine, I'm out of here." He walked out the door, and he asked me if he could still be on the compassion program so he could keep doing it, which he wasn't doing anything else, no chemo, or he wouldn't do chemo, he wouldn't do radiation. And so Roger's still with us. And it just makes me very, very happy. I referred to an article I wrote about, I have 2 articles over there about dosing part 1 and dosing part 2. So all the stuff I'm telling you is over on that table somewhere. And then this particular thing is a recent article that I wrote about Alzheimer's and dementia, because they did this huge mouse study. It's always the mice and the rats that get it. But anyway, they did a huge mouse study where they were injecting THC, microdoses of THC, to cognitively impaired old mice. And then they started doing CAT scans and studies of the physiology of their brains. And they found that the older mice were improving. They were regenerating neural cells, neural pathways that were returning the brains of these old mice to that of the young mice. And the study was so thoroughgoing and it was so impressive that the German government has now funded these folks. This was in Nature Medicine, May 2017, so it's pretty recent stuff. They've now funded them to start doing studies with humans, which is great. It's about time. In July of 2016, the Salk Institute, our own Salk Institute here in our own country, came up with a similar, nothing as big as this study, but they came up with the same conclusions, that THC was actually reversing the encroachment of amyloid plaques. And as you all probably know, amyloid plaques are part of what causes Alzheimer's. So let's deal with some misconceptions about CBD and THC. That CBD is the medical side, THC is the recreational side. We know that's not true now. That CBD is most effective if you isolate it and take it away from THC. Not true. They work very well together. Psychoactivity is inherently an adverse side effect. No, psychoactivity isn't even necessary to experience if you dose correctly and if you choose your medicine carefully. Single molecule pharmaceuticals are superior to crude whole plant medicine. That is, any herbalist you ever talk to in the world will say, what? You know? No, whole plant medicine is really the way that herbal medicine heals and engages with our endocannabinoid system and our body's responses. So CBD is CBD, doesn't matter whether it's from hemp or whole plant. You're going to see a lot of schlocky products out there made from hemp. Hemp is a cheap way to make so-called cannabis medicine. It is a very diminished cannabinoid profile, never mind terpenes and flavonoids aren't even showing up. Hemp itself looks a little bit like bamboo stalks. It's not like these rich, remember that earlier picture of the flowers of the beautiful plants that we have up here in Mendocino? No, hemp is not medicine. It's wonderful for building materials, rope, clothing, all that stuff. Hemp is great, but not medicine. And that CBD-only laws adequately serve the patient population, definitely not true. So get high or get well. The biggest misconception about cannabis, that there's no medical value to it, and it's just an excuse to get high. And remarkably, the very people in Sacramento who were creating the new laws, I was very active over the last 3 years, since 2014, going to Sacramento and talking to lawmakers about how to begin to write the regulations, because everybody knew it was coming. And so they were starting to work on this 3 or 4 years ago. And even the most enlightened liberal lawmakers in Sacramento, still, it was all wink, wink, nod, nod. Yeah, really, it's just about getting high, but that's okay. Getting high is not bad, and we can make a lot of money off this industry. Well, no, wrong. It's not about getting high. It's really about turning to herbal medicine as an option, as a way to deal with dis-ease in a sane way. So we've gone over this. I'm going to zip through it. Smoking, great for symptom management. Edibles, not the best delivery system. Membrane in the mouth and suppositories are the best. Keep going. This is just a problem chart. You see this great chart in a lot of dispensaries you might walk into. And because this is an attempt by dispensaries to pretend that they're medically astute. I used to do presentations to staff of dispensaries up and down the state, and it was like, they were all excited to be able to help patients and everything, but then the owners of the dispensary were just pushing the high THC rec because you could make a whole bunch more money off of smoking flower, and it was kind of like the market was driving force behind the dispensaries. We have 1,000 dispensaries in California, and they really need training in the medical side of cannabis. The other problem is, as soon as I would do a presentation to a dispensary staff, 3 or 4 months later, the owner of the dispensary would call and say, hey, could you come back and do that presentation again? And I was like, I was just there. Turnover, they're all gone. But this was a chart that shows, okay, cancer, you take this. Neurological, you take this. It's this sort of causality, that single-minded causality. It's not like that. It's much more complex. It's much more varied. It's much more dynamic. We've already talked about this. You can't overdose on cannabis. Does it really make a difference if herbal medicines are made with pure ingredients? Absolutely. You don't want hemp-based. You don't want your medicine coming out of soil that's had chemical nutrients and chemical pesticides in it. Whole plant medicine, does it matter if it's whole plant medicine or just as good if you get it? You're going to find medicines that are going to be a third the cost, quote unquote medicines, but they're from hemp. You get what you pay for. Hemp is low in THC and other cannabinoids. It's stalk and seeds versus flowers, leaves, and stems. Alcohol and oil. Let's just take a moment on this, because your tinctures are often, you'll find them in an oil base, and that's much more palatable than in the biodynamic grape alcohol, which is actually very pure and doesn't have trace amounts of neurotoxins, like other over-the-counter alcohols like isopropyl and Everclear have trace amounts of neurotoxins in them. Alcohol, since the 19th century, American pharmacopoeia was used by herbalists and medical doctors as a conveyor of herbal medicine because it's the most absorbable medium. When you take an oil-based tincture, You'll still get some good effects. You'll have to take some more of it, but there's 3 problems. This is my opinion. A lot of people don't agree with me. There's 3 problems with oil-based tinctures. If you stop and think about it, it makes sense. Number 1, oil has a tendency to separate from the medicine that it's carrying. So the manufacturers, you'll notice on the label, they'll put in emulsifiers to get the molecules to bind. Number 2, oil is a food product. So you have a possibility of microbials growing in there. No microbials with alcohol. Number 3, oil-based tinctures have a harder time passing through the blood-brain barrier to get into the receptors that you want your medicine to get to. So it's just, alcohol is still most absorbable through the membrane of the mouth, through the blood-brain barrier, through the stomach lining for that matter. It's been said, cannabis was on the pharmacy shelves in 1850. From 1850 till 1848 till 1939, you could find cannabis on your pharmacy shelves. Doctors used it, herbalists used it. So we now know cannabis is an herb, it's not a drug. Herbal medicine is individuated. Each of us will respond a little bit differently. Whole plant medicine is going to be much more effective. That's the way the dynamic interplay of the chemical compounds work best together to secure a healing response from your body's natural healing mechanisms on a cellular level. The entourage effect is the way all those cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids work together in your body. And herbal treatments require no passivity, no more the passive consumer patient. They require self-awareness, self-monitoring, being aware of how you feel, taking an active role to study, read about, learn about your medicines, choosing your ratios, your doses, and your delivery systems. It's all in your hands now. Cannabis, like all herbal medicines, is part of a natural and holistic healing approach. Herbs heal in concert with modalities like massage, Bowen, Reiki, sound therapy, acupuncture, dance, touch, nutrition, exercise. I went to a medical cannabis conference in Arcata last year, and we were sitting around having lunch, and I said to the doctors, I said, well, of all this stuff you've been talking about, all these great cannabis medicines, what's the very best thing you could do to stay healthy? And they all said, exercise, move, get up and move. I was a consultant to a dietitian, the National Dietitians Organization Association in Oklahoma, and we were at lunchtime. I said, okay, all this talk about nutrition, what's the very best thing you can eat? Cut it to a third of what you eat. We all eat too much. It's like, some stuff is simple. So mix it up. Our bodies need various healing medicines and modalities. Sometimes people will come into Dragonfly and they'll get a joint to smoke every day because they got a very stressed out job. And I'm not going to begrudge or judge anybody for that. But I say to them, look, mix it up. Your body wants different medicines. Have you ever tried ashwagandha, a Chinese herb that relaxes you? Have you tried massage? Have you tried meditation? Mix it up. If you keep doing the same thing every day, your body will start to build up a tolerance, and it won't be as effective. So be holistic in the true meaning of the word. Be holistic about healing yourself. Cannabis is medicine. Cannabis is inspiration. Are you ready for the future of this amazing herb? And I thank you very much for your time. So you're coming up front?
Yeah, I wanted to address your question about addiction. Mm-hmm. In order to be addicted to something, something is addictive. You develop a tolerance, okay? You start drinking that, right? Pretty soon you can have 3 glasses of wine. You can have the whole bottle and be just fine, kind of. And you have withdrawal. With cannabis, there is no tolerance development, and there is no withdrawal. So you cannot be addicted. Now, psychologically, you might be
Dependent
upon not being